take action. You know, I find some people overthink things, and I always say that activity breeds activity. And so that would be my, it's not rocket science, but that would be my tip is start moving towards option A or option B, even if you don't know what the answer is. And oftentimes when you do that, option C comes out of left field. So I think
Some experts chase attention, but the smart ones build authority. You're listening to the Authority on Demand podcast, where credibility becomes your competitive advantage. Every week, we're pulling back the curtain on how founders and leaders turn expertise into inbound demand through books that position, media that converse, and strategies that actually move the needle. I'm Danielle Hutchinson, your host and Chief Creative Officer at Authority on Demand. Now, let's turn your authority into leverage.
Hey everybody. So somewhere right now, there's a corporate executive sitting at a desk they've spent 20 years behind doing the math on whether they could ever own something of their own. And they're probably thinking about a franchise, and they're probably thinking about food. And here's what they don't know yet. The real money, the better margins, and more interesting businesses, the one that don't require you to be there at 6 a.m. on a Saturday. Most of those have things to do with food. My guest today built an entire company now on the Inc. 5000 around that insight. He's a top 1% franchise consultant, best-selling author, a multi-brand franchisee, and someone who has helped literally thousands of people find the path to freedom and wealth. So today we are chatting with John Ostenson of FranBridge Consulting. We're looking forward to learning more about you and your platform and everything you have to offer. So John, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome.
hey, excited to be here, Daniel. Thanks for having me.
Hey, real quick before we jump back in, if you're loving what we're doing here, hit that subscribe button and drop us a like. We're bringing you the best authors, the most real conversations, and all the writing wisdom that you didn't know you needed. So stick around because it only gets better from here. All right, now let's get back to the conversation.
Yeah, of course. I mean, what you're doing here is right on board with what we do as well, helping people establish themselves, build a name for themselves, earn that credibility to find the right clients and make sure their message gets to the right people. But let's talk about you for a little bit, before we get into it. I mean, I gave a little bit of an overview, 15 years in the corporate world. At what point did you realize that building something of your own was the path that you actually wanted to be on?
Yeah, I think so many people out there have that desire to be a business owner and they really don't know where to start. And that was certainly true of me. I had a great run in the corporate world, very thankful for the experiences that I had, postgraduate school and, kind of checked all the boxes of what you would typically do climbing the career ladder. But I'm in my mid 40s now. And by the time I got to my mid 30s, about a decade ago, I was like, all right, it's time. Let's make a move. And didn't know what it looked like, but really fortunately stumbled into franchising, had the opportunity. Prior to that, I always thought of franchising as fast food. You hear the F word, you think franchise, you think fast food, but my eyes were open to this world that existed outside of food. So had the opportunity to step in as president of Shelf Genie Franchise System. So I went from a public company to a small private company, took a pay cut, but wanted to try my hand at something new and had the opportunity to support hundreds of franchisees across North America and really fell in love with the model through that experience. I just saw all these diverse backgrounds come together under a shared system of support and become business owners. So that really launched me down the franchise path.
Yeah, I see that. And well, hey, it's something that really goes to show when you go from one world to the other and you realize which is the better path for you. And clearly this was it. And I can tell too, because I mean, you talk in your book about the entrepreneurial itch, which must be something that kind of relates to that, right? The idea that almost everyone has it, and everyone acts on it, so you kind of want to expand. Does that kind of have a part to play in that decision as well, perhaps? Or
Absolutely. I think a lot of people want to build their own empire, right? They're tired of working for the man, and everyone's got their own why. But at the end of the day, they want to prove to their family, they want to prove to those around them that they've got what it takes, and they want to build something that they can put their thumbprints on. And franchising is not right for everyone. Some people are too entrepreneurial, and they want to, they think they're the smartest guy no matter what room they're in. Smartest guy in the room, and they want to put their fingerprints all over it. But for most people, I think having those training wheels of a franchise system and that structure around them and the support that comes with it, really is a great way to launch into business ownership for most people.
understood, right? And so, now that we mentioned the book a little bit, though, perhaps you can segue into that. The title of your book is "Non-Food Franchising: The Better Path to Business Ownership." Pretty bold claim, and clearly you're definitely somebody who has the credibility to speak on it. But what would you say to somebody who pushes back and says, like, why is it actually better?
Yeah, and franchising gets grouped together as an industry, right? But end of the day, it's a couple thousand different business models. And so, a lot of different industries. And just like any industry, you're going to have great players out there that provide great support, but you're also going to have some franchises that aren't worth the royalty that you would be paying them. So that's where we come in to try to help our clients. But, end of the day, again, I think some people want to build that tech startup. They want to take the moonshot. But if you're looking for a more predictable path that has much better numbers historically around success rates, franchising is the better path. And what we see going on in the market right now, Danielle, is a lot of people looking to buy existing businesses. It's called entrepreneurship through acquisition, or ETA for short. And, where I sit, I see a lot of case studies, and most of them have been looking for existing businesses for 3 or 4 or 5 years. I've got 4 different Harvard MBAs I'm working with right now that are all looking for existing businesses, but they haven't been able to find them after several years of looking. And oftentimes, I encourage people to think about what's right for the next season. One of the things I love about franchising is it allows you to get in the game with a proven system, and you start building from day one. You can still buy an existing business down the road, or maybe you buy other franchisees in the system. There are a lot of different optionality paths that you have, but what gets you in the game, what provides that support, and again, what provides the historical results. A lot of that comes through having a proven model, a playbook, marketing stack that's already in place, technology, and again, that community of other franchisees where it's a built-in mastermind and you're learning from each other. So again, it's not right for everyone, but I think for most people, it's a better path.
Understood. And I see why too. It's like it's safe too, but also it's something that everyone knows. It's already something that if you're getting into a certain company, well, you know what to expect. Everything's right there for you. Would you say that it's easier in a way? Or I mean, I'm sure it has its own challenges, but I mean, I feel like somebody might counter up and be like, well, maybe that's the easy way out. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Well, and I think for some people, they think franchises will run themselves. They don't. It still takes a lot of hard work, and I never want to sugarcoat it. But it is nice when you're able to step in and you're handed a list of here are the things that we're going to do to support you. Here are the things that you need to do to go be successful. And you go start executing, right? You don't have to figure everything out on your own and make those same mistakes. Those mistakes have already been made and built into the system. And most people forget this, but business ownership can be lonely. You get in the game, and certainly, like I'm a member of EO and Entrepreneurs Organization, different masterminds. I'm a big believer in surrounding yourself with the right people, putting yourself in the room. And that's one of the things I love about franchising is you've got a franchisor and their support team supporting you. But again, having that community of other franchisees is very healthy and very energizing as well.
Right, exactly. And I like that you said that too. And it has a big community role to play, which I wouldn't have even considered too. But then you have like all these people by your side and helping you out rather than just going blindly into the tunnel. So that's a really cool thing to think about. But of course, it's not just about that or the community. You actually introduced the concept of the trifecta of business ownership. So I'm sure that has a huge role to play too, the cash flow, asset appreciation, and tax write-off. So tell me a little about that because most people focus on maybe only the income. Why do you think the other two legs get overlooked?
Yeah, I think it's one of those reasons we're attracting a lot of real estate investors too. I mean, I personally invest in real estate. A lot of our clients do. I think there's a similar mindset where you're looking for outsized returns, which can be had because you're also putting some effort in, right? It's not a totally passive investment. But, and I always say if business ownership was easy, everyone would be doing it, right? It does take work, but you can make those outsized returns, and that can come in the form of cash flow early on. It can come in the form of building a business one day that's going to have exit value, but you're also as the third leg getting tax benefits. The government incentivizes ownership because you're creating jobs, you're building the economy, you're improving the community, and so there's so many tax strategies that you can employ. That I personally employ that I never could as a W-2.
Right. Understood. And some of those things might be like over the heads of a lot of people, but for somebody in the mindset of it, and for me, example, I'm a ghostwriter and editor. I might not know too much about the world of taxes and write-offs, but I can see the importance of it, and because it does affect all of us. So it's good to keep your eyes open. And is that something that you focus on in your book, kind of like ways and strategies to be mindful of these?
Yeah, I could have written a 500-page book, but I knew most people wouldn't read it. So I packed as much as I could into 90 pages. And yes, we certainly talk about the financial piece. We talk about different ways to fund the business that oftentimes people may overlook, like SBA loans or retirement rollovers. But then I share case studies of clients of ours and the different paths they've taken and what their backgrounds look like. We talk about business, franchising versus startups, franchising versus entrepreneurship through acquisition. We talk about the different industries. So again, really helping people understand the franchise world, kind of soup to nuts, in a very compact way.
Understood. Okay, yeah. So certainly appreciate all those tips on that into that regard. Now, in addition to the book, which I think you mentioned, if anybody is interested in learning more about this, they can check it out for themselves. And I think believe you mentioned a copy that's available for them. Is that right?
Yeah, if you come out to our website, FranBridgeConsulting.com, would love to share a free copy. Just provide your email address, and my assistant will reach out with downloadable copies, either PDF or audio or ebooks. If you'd rather buy a physical copy online on Amazon or any other website that sells books, all the proceeds will go to Hope International, which is a great nonprofit that we support.
Oh, I love that. That's amazing to hear that it just trickles back to the community too. Like it's not just being pocketed or funneled into like another, entrepreneurial setting, but something that can help lots of people. So I think that's amazing that you're doing that. Very generous. And I'm curious to know that might actually kind of add on to your credibility as a figure to speak on this, right? I mean, sure, you're featured on Forbes, on Fire, Forbes Inc., other major podcasts, but that generosity too as a huge part of play rather than just who you're speaking to also. But to go into those, tell us about that, like the opportunity to speak and be part of these different companies. Does that help you reach a broader market, would you say? Does it help you find the right people that might not have known you exist otherwise? I ask this because we are the Authority on Demand podcast. So to put it bluntly, like what are some of the things you've done to get yourself credible and speak on these matters? What would you say?
Absolutely. Well, fortunately, I've got experience in the industry and I'm passionate about it. I've just seen how, it's changed lives out there. And so, that's a great background. And so as a result, I love educating on it. And, I do end up going on quite a few podcasts and sharing the gospel of franchising, if you will, but it's also put me on a number of stages over the years, different mastermind groups, different, group investor groups, for instance. This past week, I was speaking up at the University of Georgia. I always love speaking to students as well. But also LinkedIn has been kind of the key social platform for me. Built up a good following there, and through producing good content and putting it out there and giving people things to think about, and different teasers around opportunities that we like in the market. That so many people reach out all the time, Danielle, and say, "I never would have thought of a franchise that does X, Y, Z, team driving school, or catering to seniors and their fitness needs, or different home services or B2B services." There's so many niches out there, again, that people don't have on their bingo cards when they hear the word franchising.
Right, understood. So I appreciate you showing that to us. And kind of circle back then, you did mention that in LinkedIn is kind of where you build most of your authority. Do you also stack that on other platforms too, or do we mainly stick to LinkedIn? And I ask for two reasons. Once people can find you and the best place to connect with you, but also for anyone else listening, like would you say that one platform is enough or do you need more? What's your take on that?
For my business, going heavy on LinkedIn and really focusing there has done everything I needed it to do. I think if I was really scaling beyond our current size in a significant way, then we'd probably tap into other ones. So, a lot of the content ends up still going on Facebook and X. I have not done much on Instagram. I think that was probably a miss on my part looking back, but LinkedIn has plenty of, those that we work with, as well as, it's just a great platform for educating.
Understood. Okay, I like that also. And did you mention the best place to find you? A certain like site on LinkedIn, or just search your name on LinkedIn? Just so we can put in the show notes and all that. What would you say?
And I would mention YouTube as well. I've got quite a bit of content on YouTube, but no, LinkedIn under my name, personal page there, but it's tied back to the business. Follow me on LinkedIn, but certainly if you come out to our website too, you'll see quite a few episodes I've been on, sharing content, and we've got a lot of resources there too.
Okay. Yeah, awesome. So, guys, we're going to put the links to all this in the description box of this podcast today. So you can click on over, get in the know, and learn a little bit more about what Jonathan has to offer. But, we still have a bit to chat about here. So I'm curious to know, like, in addition to like some YouTube content and the LinkedIn and the book, what else have you been doing in order to establish yourself as an authority in this field? Somebody who can really speak of what it means to become a franchisee. I mean, you've lived it for one, but what else would you say has gotten to the top so people can turn to you as a figure?
It's interesting, Danielle. There are thousands of people that do what I do out there. I'm not alone, but a few things that I have done differently. One, I would say my lead generation is very different. I educate, I put content out. It's what I call magnetic marketing. Put out good content that brings people in, build a personal brand. Part of the way I've done that is, through writing a book, through getting out there in different groups and different circles where you talk about what you're doing. And for better or for worse, when people hear the F word franchise in a lot of circles, they think of me. And so about half my business ends up being referrals. And part of it is it's entirely free to work with us. We get referral fee from the brands on the back end, very much like a real estate model if you're going to buy a house. So I think it's a great model. It's easy for people to reach out. And I'm having had the experience I've had of being a franchisor, and I am a multi-brand franchisee. I've seen it from both sides, and so I can really place myself in my candidate shoes. I've been there. I've been coming out of the corporate world oftentimes as well. And so I think just having the experience, you can't shortcut experience in real world case studies, and just kind of snowballs over the years, having placed several hundred people into business ownership. That definitely creates a referral network that you can't just manufacture.
Understood. No, I like that. And that's super important to think about too. Kind of making it genuine is what I'm sounding like here, making it like authentic to what your own beliefs are too. You can't manufacture it. It's kind of something that comes from you and from your heart as well, in addition to like your experiences and your knowledge and everything tied up together. So I like that. So now that's put out there though, and all this is going, so what do you say the next steps for you? What other exciting projects do you plan to be working on in the future? What can we be on the lookout for?
Yeah. There's never been a better time to be in franchising. I think with what's going on with AI and how it's disrupting the workforce and a lot of people questioning their jobs and looking for solutions. And if you can be that answer to people, help educate. Everyone's situation's different. But for me, I'm just passionate about doing what I'm doing right now. There's so many unique business models that are getting into the world of franchising. And oftentimes I joke that non-sexy is the new sexy when it comes to business ownership. Just a lot of these property services, private equities investing in these things because they see such a runway ahead. AI is not going to disrupt them. If anything, AI is going to enhance them, right? It's never going to replace some of these types of businesses. And so for me, it's really, I'm passionate about being the solution to people's challenges, to their concerns. And if I can, impact people through their careers, then it impacts their family and their community. And that's where I get my validation doing what I do.
Okay, amazing. I love that. And yeah, you're right. I mean, the more it helps other people, the more that you feel validated, and it's a cycle. The more you're able to share with others and create that knowledge for others to talk about and share with others, and on and on, like snowball effect. So I love that. So super important. Now, as we begin to wrap up today, I'm curious if you have any other tips and tricks you'd like to offer the audience, perhaps anything that maybe you didn't know when you first got started in this world that you might want to share with others. Would you say?
Yeah, I think take action, get off the couch. I find some people overthink things, and I always say that activity breeds activity. And so that would be my, it's not rocket science, but that would be my tip is start moving towards option A or option B, even if you don't know what the answer is. And oftentimes when you do that, option C comes out of left field. So I think, again, happy to share the book with any of your listeners. I think that's a really good place to start because the feedback I've consistently got over the last couple of years is I never would have thought of this type of business or that. And it really got the juices flowing. I started talking to my spouse or talking to my brother-in-law, and we may go into business together and would love to see what other opportunities you like in our market that are looking to expand here. So, yeah, I'd say just dip a toe in the water and get the juices flowing. And happy to jump on a call with any of your listeners and talk further. And again, introduce them to the top opportunities in their market.
Yeah, of course. And I'm so glad that you're offering this for us. You've really established yourself in the field. You've made it somewhere and we can turn to for advice. And that advice is free when you get the digital copy, and also just offering your knowledge. So I love that. Thank you so much for coming on today. By the way, it's been one of those eye-opening conversations we've had in a while. I really admire what you've done here. I mean, you took something most people think they understood. I mean, franchising is a pretty simple concept from far away, but you've reframed it to what's possible. So it's definitely interesting. Lots of different angles and avenues. Thank you for all of your insights.
Absolutely. No, appreciate you having me. And one last thought, Danielle. You'd asked about, how do people separate themselves in the industry? I would encourage listeners, no matter what industry you're in, be contrarian in how you think about it. Cut the market down. For me, it was cutting out half the market by not doing food. And so I would leave everyone with that thought of, what is one thing you can do to kind of separate and go deep within your own industry?
Okay, I like that. Yeah, gotta keep it unique. You can't just follow everybody else's lead. Figure out what hasn't been done, and make a name for yourself. And that's exactly what you've been doing too. So I appreciate that. So yeah, everybody, if you enjoyed today's episode, definitely check out non-food franchising, grab a digital copy, or schedule a call with John directly. All of the links in the description box of this podcast today. And thanks again, John, for sharing your time, your story, and your expertise. It's been an honor.
Great. Thank you.
Of course, everybody else, we're Authority on Demand, and we'll see you next time.
That's a wrap on another episode of the Authority on Demand podcast. If today's conversation sparked something in you, don't keep it to yourself. Share this episode with a founder or leader who's ready to stop being the best kept secret in their industry. If you want to turn your expertise into inbound demand, head to authorityondemand.com to see how we help clients go from unknown to in demand. I'm Danielle Hutchinson, and I'll catch you on the next one. Now, go build some authority.